All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 13 of Cards Subject to Change. And this wonderful episode, lucky number 13, we have a very special guest. We have the man of the hour who is all over social media. He is Mr. Sirius Radio when it comes to professional wrestling. We have the very talented and very opinionated and very passionate Dave LaGreca. So, Dave, thank you for joining us.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. I'm honored. I appreciate it. This is a long time coming, so thanks for having me on. I'm an avid listener, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And we had to get the special liquor for us today. We have good fucking bourbon.
Oh, nice.
We got to throw that on there. So we're looking, not necessarily looking for a sponsor, but we'll take one if one comes our way. So, but again, thank you for joining us. And, we do these podcasts, we kind of have like a loose piece. And the reason why we call it Card Subject to Change is sometimes things go off the rails and the subject changes. But I did have one question to kind of get us flowing. And this kind of flows into a couple of different areas. Wanted to find out first from your perspective, what was your journey into the professional wrestling industry, technically not being in the industry? I know you have a lot of years of broadcast experience and things of that nature, but what led you to getting with Sirius and doing a program like this and really just kind of exploding the reins of pro wrestling on a completely different level with where we're at today from a podcast and social media perspective and YouTube?
Well, a couple of things from what you just said. Number one, I'm still not in the industry. Like I'm not. I'm still just a fan, and that's where it really comes from, Shawn. Is that I'm a fan, and I'll always be a fan, and I don't want to lose the perspective of being a fan. So that fandom is what got this show started. I've been with Sirius XM for 21 years. This month, been 21 years, but I started on the NFL channel. I wasn't doing a pro wrestling show before I became an employee of Busted Open. I worked for NFL, but being a fan of pro wrestling and it being the perfect platform, Sirius XM being something that's off the grid, something that's not what you usually get from terrestrial radio, there wasn't anything on the platform with professional wrestling. So I really wanted to bring that to the platform. So it was me and Doug Mortman that first started the show, two fans and two fans' perspective. But even right now, after doing this show for 16 years, I'm still not in the industry. There's still a line between myself and you guys. And there's certain terminology I won't use. There's certain topics I won't bring up or talk about because I still feel like there's that line. And I feel like if I cross that line, it's being disrespectful. I think one of the problems I have with professional wrestling in 2025 is I don't think people respect that line. There's certain things that I won't talk about because I've never been in the ring. I've never wrestled. So I can't speak about that nor do I feel like I have the right? So I know that's a long-winded answer to a question that you didn't really ask, but like I feel like when you say being a part of the industry, I'm not. Like I'm not. I'm outside that bubble. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely, it does. And I guess the reason why I say that was because obviously, we have seen you, on a lot of different national television programs, but I really respect your stance on that and where that comes from. Because guys like us, we are avid listeners of your show. We respect what you do and how much passion you bring to the pro wrestling table, because I still feel in certain circles when the term pro wrestling is used that you look at it as, well, it's pro wrestling. It's that fake stuff. And and it just, you know, I feel when that term is thrown around, people say, like, oh, it's that fake stuff. And, you know, for guys like us that have been doing this for a long time, putting our bodies on the line, you know, we feel a certain type of way. But it's really incredible to have somebody like you on that other line that really brings that passion to the table, where I still think in certain circles, people are afraid sometimes to say that they like pro wrestling or they love pro wrestling in certain circles. So I think what you do, marrying the two together, you know, on your perspective, and then having all the other guests you have on your show, like Bully and Tommy and Mark Henry and others, like you bring such a unique perspective. You know, what made the decision to go in that direction of having some of those guys partner with you with Busted Open?
Well, the show was just myself and Doug Mortman. And again, we were both employees of Sirius XM that wanted to do a wrestling show because we're fans. And we were able to gain some traction. The show started as just, you know, 1 hour once a week, and then it started to build from there. Then we went to 1 hour to 2 hours. Then we went from 1 day a week to 2 days a week to 3 days a week. And then I had the opportunity to have the show go 5 days a week. And Doug Mortman, who's a VP at Sirius XM, just wasn't able to do the show anymore because of his other duties. But I was offered to do this full time. So I took a really big chance with Busted Open because I took a job where I had a solidified position and pretty much a job for life, taking a chance on professional wrestling. So for me, I understand where you're coming from, where a lot of people don't give the respect and credibility to professional wrestling. I do, so I took that chance. But the reason I started bringing Bully and Mark and Tommy in is that it was right after Wrestle Kingdom 11, and the big match between Okada and Kenny Omega. I said on the air with Doug that I thought the series of matches that Kenny Omega and Okada had were some of the best matches that I have seen since Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. That prompted a phone call from Bully Ray. Where Bully called. This was not on the show. He called my personal phone. I remember exactly where I was. It was on a Saturday, and he was like, "Are you really comparing Kenny Omega and Okada to Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat?" And we started having this long discussion on the phone where it was like a light bulb going over my head, like, this needs to be on the air. And then I had him on as a guest, and then that started the discussions of Bully saying to me, "Do you want to take this show to the next level?" And that's when Bully joined. And then Tommy joined, and then Mark joined soon after that. And that's really how it started. It really started with a phone conversation about Okada and Omega from Wrestle Kingdom 11 in 2017.
That's tremendous.
Well,
Yeah.
little things.
Dave, it's Danny Maff here. Hello.
What's up, buddy?
Thank you for joining us on our radio show. This means a lot to us. I personally believe in giving people their flowers, just like you guys do on Mondays. I feel like you deserve your flowers, and you are the godfather of Sirius XM Radio. You are the leader. You are the creator of the Busted Open Nation.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to personally thank you, like I have done before, and it was real. What you bring to the world it's indescribable. You're responsible for changing the lives of so many people that you don't even know. You touch so many lives every single day. Me, okay, for instance, there's been days where life's been very hard. And, you know, I feel like the world has been very unforgiving. And, you know, the only thing that keeps me going is that, hey, you know, I can turn my phone on, I can put Sirius on, after I get settled in at work, because I do go to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And and I listen to Busted Open
Mm-hmm.
every single day. The first thing I do is I listen to Busted Open after dark, and then it comes on again because it loops
Yeah.
again, and I let that go until 9 o'clock, when I see either I'll come out of the app and I'll go back in, and I'll catch you live, and it's amazing, what you bring, to everyone, and how much I look forward, to listening to you speak about something that we all love, which is professional wrestling. Just you know, just your takes and your opinions on things. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be about wrestling. It's just your conversations and the way you guys entertain. Like I like when you and Nick, are on. I feel like you should call that like just a hard left turn, that episode, because you guys are awesome, man. Like today, like the direction that whole episode went today, and the things you guys talk about, and and your conversation yesterday with with um
Steve Kern.
with Steve Kern, that was amazing. I never knew none of that stuff, and the way you broke down, the way he thought his dad had passed away, and for all those years he had to live with that, and to find out that his dad was just a POW. I mean, that whole story was amazing, and I just want to thank you again. Thank you, sir, for everything that you do for the wrestling business. You have an amazing cast of hosts. You're surrounded by Hall of Famers. It's so beautiful. Bully Ray, who I hold in such high regard. That man has been responsible for so much in my career. In the short time that I spent around him, I learned so much. Tommy Dreamer, I've spent a lot of time around him more than anyone, on the panel, and I've gotten to really know Tommy, and Tommy has at times been very honest with me, and he's told me what I really need to hear. Mark Henry, it's amazing. You're in Natalie, just recently, Natalie
Yep.
and Nick Nemeth, and just the whole gang. It's just it's an incredible listen. It gets me through a lot of my days, and it's very entertaining. And just thank you for everything that you do.
That means a lot. And you and I had a personal conversation a few weeks back at the ACW show in Poughkeepsie, which they do a tremendous job, and I love that building so much. But like hearing those words from you, and I get that a lot, and it's very humbling. Where people say that I get them through a bad situation, or the show gets them through a bad situation, or if they're depressed, it picks them up. That means the world to me, because radio always did that for me when I was a kid. There was always, you know, there was nothing like, for me, radio, whether it was like a Howard Stern or Mike and the Mad Dog or somebody, like, where no matter how bad of a day I was having, I could turn that show on and it was there and it was live. And I could get lost in that for a couple hours while you're going through your day. And I think everybody's experienced that, where they've had, personal issues and they're depressed about it, or just a job you don't fucking like. And I remember for the longest time, I had a job I absolutely hated. And the one thing that I had was the radio that kind of got me through the day when I was doing something that I didn't really like. So that means the world to me. And I first noticed it during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit and everything was shut down, we missed one show. Like, the world shut down on a Tuesday, and
Mm-hmm.
it was right after I had done the show, and I got home, and that's when everything
It was a
started to
Tuesday.
just go crazy. We missed the Wednesday, and on Thursday we were back on the air. And we were able to do it. And because we weren't in the studios at that time, what we did is I would get up at 5 a.m. and my co-host would get up at 5 a.m. We would tape the show, and then we would have it taped and ready so that we we could play it at 9 a.m. We weren't live. And that's when I heard a lot of people say, like, during that crazy period when everything was shut down and nobody knew what was going on and nobody knew what was happening, that they could turn on the radio and hear Busted Open. Like, it was a sense of normalcy. But it was for me, because during that whole crazy period when nobody knew what was going on, I was able to do my show with Tommy and Mark and Bully. Like, that gave me a sense of normalcy during a really tough time. So this show, in the 16 years that it's been on the air, I've been divorced, I've gone through some really bad periods in my life where this show and the nation has gotten me through it. So it's great hearing that from you, but you as a fan has got me through really tough periods of my life. And for a long time, nobody believed in this show. It's a completely different story now. Like, there's amazing management and amazing executives at Sirius XM that really have embraced this show and are behind the show and support the show. That wasn't always the case. There was a long period of time where nobody believed that this show would ever survive. So it's because of fans and because of you, and I say you, wrestlers, that have really gotten us there. So it's not really me. It's the community, the pro wrestling community, that has really made this show successful. So thank you for all of that. I appreciate that.
I only wish I would have known about this show during the pandemic. Unlike these guys, I'm probably the last one to even hear about Busted Open. I didn't know. I had no idea what it was. But I'm going to tell you, from the first time I heard it, I was hooked. I heard you through Spotify. And I was listening to it, and we would only get about 30 to 40 minutes. And I kept hearing Sirius, they're on Sirius. So I kept asking some questions, and then I was like, you know what? This is awesome. I'm gonna subscribe to Sirius, and I did, and man, it was a life changer. It was life changing, and I love it. I'm an avid fan. I have my sweatshirt. I wear it proudly. I have my Busted Open hoodie. I wear it proudly, and I'm a big fan of the LaGreca rant. Yeah, my personal favorite LaGreca rant was immediately after Cody lost to Roman at Mania, and Vince Russo called in, and he told you that Cody was a heel, and you went in on him, man. I was like, holy shit, what is going on here? This is awesome. Yeah. But I'll call Shawn, or I'll text Shawn. I said, you gotta listen to Busted Open today. Holy shit, you gotta hear this topic is incredible.
We'll both be at our jobs, and I'll get a text, hey, listen to this link, and I may not get a chance to listen to the show that day. So
every single day, religiously, I'm on there. I listen.
I think one of the things that's great about your show too is that fans and performers alike can learn a lot from both sides. Especially when you do the Masters class. We can learn a lot from those things. And sometimes there are things that I listen and I pick up on those, and I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time, but I never actually thought of looking at it that way. And that's the beauty of it. It's almost like you're sitting next to them in a locker room picking their brain, and you're getting all this knowledge for free. And that's such a beautiful piece, because a lot of times too, when I'm driving to shows, I will listen to the episodes, because especially, I know we joke about, your rants, but sometimes they fire me up ready to go to a show to perform. And it just reminds me of the love and passion that you bring to the table for all of us. Because there are people that I know, and Danny and Darius could probably, testify to the same thing, is that when people find out that, when they say, we're pro wrestlers, it's that fake stuff you do. And I'll tell you know what? It's not fake what we do. There's a lot of passion behind what we do. And I tell people, if you ever hear of a show called Busted Open, go listen to it and listen to the passion that the fans have for this. And that's what it comes down to. You're bringing a voice to the fan base that sometimes fans don't get a chance to voice that, and you get to voice that for everybody on a national level.
I never knew what Black Friday was until you
Dark side of the ring.
But
too.
these are things.
Dark side
These
of the
are
ring.
things that they resonate with me. And you speak about moments in my childhood, and listen, I swear, I hope, I can only pray that you guys get the 24/7 done. That's got to happen. It's necessary. And how do you feel about that? You're on the cusp. You're right there, man. You're right there to like being the next biggest thing next to ESPN.
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky. Like I said, that I get the support of Sirius XM. I'm very lucky, as you guys said, to have the co-hosts that I have. Like I mean, I'm very, very lucky to have them a part of this show. I'm one of those people that I'm never satisfied, but in a good way. Like it's not like it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. Like I'll achieve a goal and I'll celebrate it and I'm happy about it and I live in the moment when it happens. But then I immediately start thinking, all right, well, where can I go from here? Like what's the like, like this show, I could have been happy just talking wrestling for 1 hour a week with my friend, but I immediately started thinking, all right, how can we grow this? How can we get this bigger? How can we expand this? All right, we went from 1 hour to 2 hours to 1 day to 3 days, then 5 days, then we're 7 days. Now this is the next goal. The next goal is to go and have our own channel, like for this to be, a pro wrestling channel. Which, when you think about it, Sirius XM is late to the party. There should have been a pro wrestling channel on Sirius XM
Absolutely
5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, like that's not, from me, that's just a no-brainer. Like wrestling is so popular that there should have been a channel for this a long time ago. So, once we get 24/7, and I say once we do, because I know it's going to happen.
it's gonna happen.
Like it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. It is.
And then once it happens, I'm gonna celebrate it. We'll celebrate it together as a nation. Then what's next? Like what's the next thing we can accomplish?
I love it.
But it's all about it's not about me. It's not about Busted Open, but it's about our fans. And I'm still thinking like when we get 24/7, I don't know if I want to call it Busted Open. I really want to come up with a name that celebrates wrestling but celebrates our fan base. Like, Busted Open's always going to be Busted Open. That's the show in the morning. This is really because of our fans. It's really because of the nation. So they're the ones that wanted this. They're the ones that had us trending #1 in the country when we asked for the hashtag. Like, this is more about our fans than anything else.
Dave, you changed the main event of WrestleMania. You've gotten under the skin of that guy, Dwayne. Okay? Like, you are moving things. Your voice has weight. You mentioned it's for the fans. It's because of the fans. It's because of your passion that us, the boys, the fans in us believe in you. This is why your fan base will run through fire for you. They will back you up no matter what the situation. They'll go buy a pink robe. Okay? They'll go to the Gramercy Theater, which was an excellent show, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go again. If you go again this Christmas, I'll go again. But it's just the connection that you have, the chemistry that you have with your with the guys who you're working with your co-hosts, and the connection that you have with the people. It's amazing. It's like next level. And this is like uncharted water because you have a connection that's special. I mean, I'm hooked and I'm one of the boys, right? So I always say, listen, like if you got the boys, you got everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that you don't know how much that means to me. And I appreciate that very, very much. And I think a landmark moment in my career, and there's several like amazing moments where I, have to take a step back and say, oh my gosh, was on the Jericho cruise. I did a show with Bully on the Jericho cruise, and my wife and I first got on the cruise, and Chris Jericho was having a conversation with Ricky Steamboat, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler. And they were having a conversation, and I was with my wife, and I went up to Chris and I said, I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but I just wanted to thank you for, inviting us to the cruise. Like, it means a lot to me. Thank you. And Chris said, oh, no problem. He goes, I don't know if you know everybody. And he introduced me to JR, to Jerry Lawler and Ricky Steamboat. He goes, this is LaGreca. He's one of the boys. And when he said that, I was like I swear to God, the feeling in my legs, like I lost feeling in my legs because I don't, and that's not true. I am not one of the boys, but and what he said in that moment was a compliment, like the compliment that you're giving me, like that. I feel like it stems from the respect that I have for what you guys do. And like, I just saw you guys in the ring, at an iconic venue, like the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, in a cage match, like with the Now, and like what you guys did to your body. And I watched that match, but I also listened and I watched the fans and their reaction to what you guys were doing in the ring, and how you had them hating you and yelling at you and cursing at you, like, and how you guys put your body on the line. That I never forget that. Like, whenever I speak about professional wrestling, whether it's in a positive or a negative way, I always remember what you guys and what the women do, putting your bodies on the line every time you step into that ring. And I don't think enough fans appreciate that. Like, I don't think they appreciate that. And I think even when I yell and scream, it comes from a place of respect
and passion.
And one thing, like when Doug Mortman and I started this show back in 2009, we started it with respect for the business and respect for the wrestlers. And the other thing we said we would never do is no spoilers. We don't do spoilers. We don't do quote unquote dirt sheet radio. And I'm not disrespecting what like wrestling journalists do, but once you do that, I think you lose the respect portion of being an on-air host and a personality. So I think it all, and you're showing it to me, and I want to show it to you. Like, I think it all is based in the foundation of respect.
And I think that's where it comes from too. And I think that's why you have such a rapport on the fan side and from the performer side, is because, yes, you feel that you are not, one of the boys. I think I can speak for the three of us here. We would consider you one of the boys. And I think in that regard is, yes, not as a performer, but it's because of the respect that you show for pro wrestling and what pro wrestlers go through on a physical, mental, and emotional basis, because a lot of fans do not understand what those of us in the industry go through, whether we're on national TV or whether we're grinding on the independents. And I think you being able just to bring that passion to show people, hey, in a respectful way, these guys do deserve their flowers, but you, on the same token, do deserve your flowers too, because of how you present pro wrestling to such a national audience and gaining a lot of people that may not have been fans of pro wrestling or may just be a casual fan. You draw them in from that. And I think that is such a unique thing. You know, we talk about having an it factor in pro wrestling, of what defines a superstar. You know, what that it is, nobody knows. You just have it.
It's intangible.
It's that intangible. And I think you bring that to a perspective from a radio perspective and from a fan perspective. You have that it factor that is able to draw a connection on both sides of the coin, because for years it was always told to guys like us that have been doing it. It's like, well, you know, if you want to be a performer, you have to be on this side of the guardrail. If you want to still be a fan, you got to stay on this side of the guardrail. I think you have found a niche to marry it both together, where a new fan listening to your show will understand both sides of the coin, which in our era now is needed more than ever, because you know, you see that the WWE in a lot of ways, and the industry as a whole, we're pulling the curtain back, but we're doing it in a respectful way. But you were doing that long before that was even thought of being done.
It's a difficult balance, and it's hard to do it because, you know, Danny brought up like a Black Friday, you know, July 14th, 1984. Like, when I watch wrestling, it was presented as a real sport. And that's what my foundation and my love of professional wrestling is a credible, real sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I always still to this day have a problem when it's presented in a way where it's not credible.
See,
And that's why I was so upset about The Rock's response to the video. And if you guys remember, you know, it was coming off of WrestleMania this past April, and it wasn't even about The Rock. It was about John Cena. And I went on this rant about John Cena and about the fans' perception of John Cena and cheering John Cena and booing Cody Rhodes. And I went on one of my explosive rants. And that's what The Rock responded to. Where he said, well, you know, stop getting so upset. It's a work, and everything's a work, and, you know, you need to be in on a creative meeting. That really upset me, and not angered. If you listen to that next day's show, I was upset. Like, I was like depressed, because it's like, man, that's not the business that I fell in love with. That's not like, let's pull back the curtain so far to show you that, like, come on, don't get excited. Why are you getting so excited? This isn't real.
Dave,
It is real.
Not
like,
to interrupt
what
you.
you guys do is real.
Not to interrupt you, Dave, but I wanted to introduce myself as well, being Darius Carter, and I wanted to
Hi,
thank
Darius.
you.
How are you?
Very, very good, man. I wanted to get this out because you are somebody that I've seen and heard about, and it's as Shawn kind of nailed it. He nailed it right on the head in terms of your presentation and the respect that you have for it, and the way that you present yourself, and the position that you come from, the way that you contribute to it. You contribute to professional wrestling, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I wanted to say that to you.
Thank you.
You know, I wanted to say it earlier, but we were all kind of getting about it. But I wanted to thank you for that and your perspective. It's great to see, and it's refreshing. You know, in a sea of people that are, you know, trying to play a role and trying to play a position and trying to angle themselves a certain way, you know, you come off as very genuine, you come off as very astute, and you come off as very passionate. And that's something that I look for if I'm gonna, you know, listen to you. So
I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I am passionate about pro wrestling, and again, I'm just a fan. Like, a lot of people get on me like I'm supposed to be unbiased. I'm a journalist. I never said that. I never said I was a journalist. I'm not. I'm a fan. I'm a radio host that's a fan of pro wrestling. So, like, when I come on and I'm openly rooting for Cody, it's because I'm a Cody fan. Like, I don't hide my feelings. I don't think I should. But it's a balance on the show because I work with so many different Hall of Famers, and it's a completely different perspective. But I really appreciate all three of you guys giving me such respect today, because that means a lot. Because I respect what you guys, you know, Shawn, I've known Shawn for a long time. I've been a fan of Shawn for a long time. I've been watching Shawn wrestle since 2009.
All
You
right.
know, and he's fantastic.
What an
at it.
evolution! Like watching how that's
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
how you've matured and come through.
yeah, and Dave, I beyond those words hold a lot of water with me because of how much I respect you, and you brought to a point of the not throwing wrestling in fans' faces as, like you said, it's a work, right? And I think I'd like to think that the four of us have grown up in an era where we bought wrestling because it was presented to us as a legitimate art form. And I think that's why we love what we do. And I understand young performers today were raised in a kind of a different generation. And I think what sometimes does get lost, and maybe you have an opinion from some of the independent shows that you've been to, whether it's ACW or even Tommy Fierro's ISPW, those of us that kind of grew up in that realm still want to bring that legitimacy, that realism to what we do, because we want to present it in a way that we're not insulting the fans' intelligence. We want fans to invest in the performers and their personas. That if the fan is going to pay their hard-earned money to buy a ticket to a independent wrestling event, it should be on those performers to do everything they can to suspend a fan's disbelief.
You get them emotionally invested.
Yeah, and I feel like if an independent company is going to present that in a way where you're just kind of you're I don't want to say you're making fun of what we do, but you're not putting the fan first and what they're paying to come see. They want to be able to be invested in the show. They want to be able to make noise at a show. They want to be able to voice their opinion, as you see those that do it on a national television program. We want those fans to stand up and boo and cheer, and if they want to give us the middle finger, if they want to throw garbage at the heels, we want that. And I think what you bring to the table on that is that sense of pride of what we would like to call legitimate professional wrestling is, that should be presented to fans and not in a way that's insulting the fans' intelligence.
Yeah, and again, it's a balance. It's a difficult thing to do, like you said, here in 2025, but it can be done. And I think, and by the way, when I say work, those are the Rock's term. That's one of those words I don't use. I don't use work or shoot. Like, that's language that isn't for me to speak. That's language for professional wrestlers and people inside the industry to use. It bothers me when fans say certain terminology that fans shouldn't be saying.
Like,
so,
how would you know?
like it's that's that because, and again, I think part of Shawn, what you're saying is, and you're talking about it from the performer side. I'm going to speak about it from the fans side. Stop trying to know the recipe and learn the recipe and know what the secret is. Like, enjoy the show.
Yes.
Perfect example is what just happened with R-Truth. Like, everybody was up in arms. Like, did he know? Did he not know? Like, what's Triple H, and what do you care? Believe in what you're seeing. Like, believe in the magic of what professional wrestling is. Like, don't try to be a quote unquote insider and what's going on behind the scenes. Just buy into the story that's being told inside the ring. Don't worry what's going on. That's not your concern.
Allow yourself.
I don't want to know what the
emotionally
magician does with the rabbit.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you
and,
did it, and I'm glad you look good doing it. Thank you.
But I love the passion and the fandom that you bring to the light, because you're not afraid to call certain situations out on their bullshit.
And that explosivity.
Okay, you have the stones to say what you feel, and you feel strongly about what you feel, but you also have a great respect for what the wrestlers and performers do. Now, I love the dynamic, like you and Bully and Mark, and you call him the handsome man and everything, the Prince of Prime Rib, but he also he'll let you go into the deep water, but then he will also chime in and he'll give you his side of the business and how he sees it different. And like you kind of lay out and let him present that, and then Tommy chimes in too, and then Mark, and it's an amazing conversation. But like you can't deny your passion and your ferocity for the wrestling business, and the way you just go at it, because it's pure passion. Yeah. Like wrestling makes you feel, and when it's done right, it's beautiful. And when it's done wrong,
it still does now, Danny.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Cody Rhodes. Like I was pissed that Cody Rhodes won the Rumble. He's now should be in the main event at WrestleMania, and now The Rock comes back and takes that opportunity away.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm angry as a fan. Like I'm a Cody fan. I want to see him finish the story. Like you can still get caught up in the magic if you let yourself get caught up in the magic. Like too many fans, like just be my thing is just be a fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just be a fan. Enjoy it.
That's
you
the
love
best
it.
thing.
Enjoy it. Just be a fan.
Yeah.
And I feel like if more people did that, it would be a much better experience. And we're in a great era of pro wrestling.
This
right
is
now.
unbelievable.
I mean,
It's the greatest. It's great.
Most successful it's ever been. Like you can have a show like ACW at the Mid Hudson Civic Center sold out. What is ACW? Nobody knows what ACW is. It's a brand new company. But like pro wrestling is so popular right now that fans can't get enough of it. They want to see new stars. They want to invest in new wrestlers. They want to give new companies a chance. This is embrace where we are right now. Because as you guys know, it's not going to last forever.
No.
So enjoy it while it's happening, and just believe in the magic.
It's like a renaissance, really.
I mean, it's
really
such a great
It is
time
a
right now.
renaissance.
There's a week where you could go to Poughkeepsie and you could see ACW. Then you could go see House of Glory and you could see Santana's Puerto Rican Parade show. Or you could go to Northeast Wrestling and see what they have going on up there.
You can go to GCW.
GCW.
Yep.
You go to
Get a
Maple
different
Leaf.
flavor.
You go to
make
Maple
legitimate
Leaf Pro.
weekends.
And wrestling is hot right now. Independent wrestling is hot right now, which leads me to a question that I have for you. Do you ever think that the territories will come back?
I don't think it'll come back in the sense of what it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But yes, I think there can be a modern day territory. I think that's actually what Triple H is trying to do. He's trying to do that. I think Billy Corgan with the NWA is trying to do that as well. And I feel like it's more going to be involved with a lot of wrestling schools and, a chance for them to perform in front of crowds. And I think that's one thing that the bigger companies have kind of lost sight on. Pro wrestling has always been grassroots. It always comes from not the big shiny stadiums and the arenas, but the smaller venues where they feel close to the stars. I think there can be a modern day. I think there can be a modern day territory system, and the territory system is how I fell in love with professional wrestling. Was because I was lucky enough to fall in love with it while it was still a territory system and there was cable TV, where I can watch wrestling in Georgia and I can watch wrestling in Florida and I can watch wrestling in Texas, and each territory had its own stars and each territory had its own style of wrestling.
Its own flavor.
Its own flavor, absolutely.
Yeah, its own flavor. I think you could do that again, and now would be the perfect time to do it. And you can do it in a way where it would be ultra successful and still keep in touch, because listen, WWE right now, I really feel like the one flaw that they have is that they're pricing out a lot of people. So I think this is a good opportunity for indie organizations to latch on to the people that may not be able to afford those big shows can't afford $405 tickets. So I think right now that system can work and be successful.
So when you talk about, you brought it back, right? We want to feel, right? And those moments, right? Even for us as performers, we still get goosebumps when things happen, right? You talk about in most recent times, right? Yeah, we kind of all knew Cody was going to go back, but there was a goosebump when you heard those first couple of seconds of his theme music at WrestleMania. You had that holy shit moment at the end of Survivor Series when CM Punk comes back, right? You have all these goosebumps, even most recently, right? I don't think anybody really thought Trick Williams was going to win the TNA, heavyweight championship. We're in such different times where in the industry now that is great because we're bringing back the holy shit moments that we didn't have for a long time. Like we talk about, pro wrestling always goes in ebbs and flows. And we're kind of in that holy shit moment
anything can happen.
Anything, who's going to show up? It's kind of like you bring it back to the late 90s, right? You didn't know who was going to jump ship to WCW, who was going to jump ship and go to WWF. So you have all those different elements in a more modern time, but you also talk about the independent levels too. But you also talk about from a fan's perspective, right? We talked about before you talk about just being a fan, right? On a performer side, and I really can only speak for the three of us because we speak about it from being on the performer side of seeing what goes on social media between tribalism and fans that need to know the insides and outs. And from us in a perspective, we're scratching our heads saying, like, why are fans concerned with merchandise sales and ticket sales or things of that nature? When you look at it from the perspective you have, do you feel like social media has hurt pro wrestling more so than it has helped, or it's helped more than it's hurt? Where do you think it's at with how the business is viewed or swayed from what decisions are made?
Or do you think it's mutually beneficial?
Yeah.
I think the negatives far outweigh the positives, and I think there are positives. I think like independent wrestlers can promote their brand, promote like merchandise, and promote like where they're going to be, and you can have video content and audio content like to help out a show like this, Card Subject to Change, where you can put out a clip and promote yourself. That's a positive. I think the negative is that it could be very toxic, and there is no accountability for what you're posting. Like, it's funny that there's much more negative comments about Busted Open on social media than there is when I open up the phones and talk to callers. Well, if you have that strong of an opinion, pick up the phone, call in. But when you call in, you're saying your name, you're saying where you're from. We can hear your voice.
Yep,
there's accountability.
Right.
When it's on social media, you're a nameless, faceless, bot. Like there's no accountability for what you're saying. When there's no accountability, you're just gonna say whatever you want to get a reaction. It's not a true feeling, and I think negativity is far outweighs the positive. So. It's going to be very rare where people tweet about something good or a happy moment or something positive. It's usually going to lean towards the negative. That's not healthy. I've had to battle with it.
Well, just last week, Dave, you and Bully were talking, and you said that there's been times where you shut off. You do not look at X. You detach yourself, because if you do, it consumes you and you get sucked in, or it just changes your mood.
Yeah, Danny, there was a few months back on the air with Nick, I mentioned about, I thought it was a mistake to have Will Ospreay wrestle Kyle Fletcher in Australia, because Kyle Fletcher is returning to Australia for the first time since becoming an AEW wrestler, that he could get that hero's welcome. And what is that going to do for Will Ospreay? Now, it turned out I was wrong, and Will Ospreay had a tremendous response from the crowd, and Kyle Fletcher got booed. So like all week, people were just like, "Fuck you, you're a hack, you don't know what you're like." Hey, why do you hate Will Ospreay? Why do you hate AEW? And it was like, where in my comment did I say anything negative about AEW or anything negative about Will Ospreay?
You're so supportive of it. You're so supportive of AEW.
It was an opinion that I had, and my opinion was wrong, which is fine. I was wrong. But like, people just want to gravitate towards the negative and hateful. Where Will Ospreay came on our air and said, "You know what, Dave? Like, I didn't know what the response was going to be from the audience. I even thought that there was a chance that Kyle Fletcher might get cheered. Well, but I think people just want to hate for the sake of hating, and people just want to be toxic. That you have to take a break from that, because usually it's all toxic. And you guys notice you could get 100 compliments and one negative tweet, and you're going to gravitate towards the negative tweet and not the 100 compliments. That's not a healthy way to live.
Well, I think we look about it in terms of just the world we're in right now, right? You can post a video of a kitten playing with yarn, it'll get like 50 likes and 2 comments. But if you post a video of like a car on fire, everyone's gonna comment and have an opinion on why the car's on fire, how it got on fire, who's holding the camera, who's not helping. Like, I feel like the way we're in a certain level of society today that plays into social media bleeds into all aspects of every entertainment part of social media, whether it's in movies or in music or in TV or in our industry, in pro wrestling. Where do you, from a fan perspective, where do you think that comes from, at least within the pro wrestling industry, why there's so much more negative than there is positive?
And it's funny, when you're talking about the kittens playing with yarn, there's probably going to be a comment from somebody saying, what's the matter? You don't like dogs? Like,
someone's complaining.
They're going to spin that positive into a negative and just go down that rabbit hole.
Spin it into something negative. Yeah. I don't think it's all about wrestling. I think it's everything. Like, I don't think it's just associated with wrestling. I think it's associated with movies, music, sports, politics. I just feel like what social media has done has given people a voice where they could say whatever they want, and without being kind or being respectful. Like, if you should not put on social media what you wouldn't say to somebody's face. Like, if you're willing to put it on social media, then you should be willing to say that to somebody's face. If you're not, then don't put it on social media.
We talk about it all the time. Like, Danny and I talk about different things within the wrestling business, and how fans comment, and we say, they're keyboard warriors. They're very tough behind a keyboard, but they know they wouldn't say it to their face because they probably would get punched in the face if they did. And I feel like sometimes, pro wrestling is given a bad rap by the fans too, in a negative way. Because I feel like in the society that we're in, no one today seems to know how to have a respectful, constructive type of conversation where it's immediately, let's just go for the jugular. Let's go for the low-hanging fruit. And I feel like it just puts a very negative spin on things. And like, to your perspective, right? You'll have your views. Tommy will have his views. Bully will have his views. And you're going to have more negative comments and views.
Well, Tommy and Bully share the same brain.
Well, that's true,
They share the same brain. But it's a good point by you. It's like, all right, there's my point of view, and if you don't share that same point of view, you're wrong. Yeah. And you're an asshole.
Yep.
Like, that's like no,
tribalism.
Like I can have a different opinion than you, or a different point than you. That doesn't make me an asshole. It just makes us different.
Yeah.
Like, that's, and I feel like there's such a shift, and it wasn't that long ago that people embraced change and embraced differences and embraced different opinions. And that's how you can learn about other people. It just feels like right now people are extremely closed-minded and they're not willing to listen to other people's point of view. When you do that, you're never going to grow.
Yeah.
And that's sad. And I just feel like a lot of that stems from social media.
It's a combination, I think, of things too. It's people being closed-minded while things are growing, while things are getting bigger. So it's those two things happening at the same time, and it's like, wake up, take a look. Because if you open your eyes, like, you were getting exactly what we want. If you're really a wrestling fan, if you really care about this profession, there's something for you to watch. There's somewhere for you to go.
Yes, and you know what? Like,
and it's thriving.
I remember MVP said this years ago, and I'm talking. This was like when Twitter first started, and he said that I like Pepsi, I don't like Coke. I'm gonna go and tell people how much I love Pepsi, and not how I hate Coke.
Right.
Like, I think now more people are just like, instead of saying how much they love something, they're more apt to just say how much they hate something else.
Right.
Just, if you don't like it, don't watch. Don't comment on it. Worry about what you do like, and talk about what you do like. You hate a restaurant and you didn't like your meal? Don't go back.
Right.
Like, don't go back. Go to the place that you enjoy.
Right.
Why
Tell
are
me
you
about
gonna
the place
keep
you
going
enjoy.
back to something that you hate? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to talk about everything. And I remember I went to AEW Full Gear in New Jersey, and I met a fan, and he asked, he goes, "Why do you hate on AEW so much?" Like, I don't hate AEW. But I'm critical, or I'm gonna point out things that I don't like, and I'll point out things that I do like. Doesn't mean I hate it. I love AEW. I wouldn't be here in Newark, New Jersey, at the Prudential Center watching Full Gear if I hated AEW.
Right.
I do. I
Come
love
on, put
AEW.
it together.
And that fan was like, okay. And then that same fan, and I talked, I gave him my time, I took a picture with him, I signed something for him. That same fan went on social media and be like, I met Dave LaGreca. He's an asshole. I was like, I really like.
But you see, Dave, back to what you said before.
Preaching
The
to the choir,
accountability
Dave.
part.
Preaching to the
When
choir.
you guys were face to face, it was great.
Yeah.
The second he got home and got behind his keyboard,
Yep. He got voracious.
he was 7 feet tall.
Yep. He got right. He was a mountain of a man at that point.
Which I just say, just keep saying what you're saying. Keep spreading the message that you're spreading, because your words have helped me get through many dark times on social media, and I thank you for it. You don't know how blessed I am to listen to your voice sometimes, because you're like the voice of reason, and you're like when sometimes when I get flustered, I just feel like everything is dark and I'm suffocating, man, and I can't breathe, and and you just put a different spin on shit, and it's so relatable because you're speaking to the common person, you're speaking to the fans. You're a man of the people, right? Like, you're in this shit with us. You're on the floor. You're on the ground with us. So, like, you're speaking to us and like, you're telling us, man, just shut it off, dude. Like, you could have 100 good comments and that one bad one will set you off. And like, man, like, that resonated with me. I was like, no, he's right.
Yeah, just throw your phone away.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
just like stay off your phone. Just like, and there are times where, like, man, it really gets me down. Like, I'll read a tweet and it'll really bother me and it will really get me down. I'm like, why am I letting this is in some, and then I look and it's not even somebody who follows my account. So this person doesn't follow me, doesn't like listen to the show. He's just getting it off of a clip off of, like, I can't let somebody, why am I letting this person affect my mood or affect my day? When it gets to that point, just turn it off. Just turn the phone off, put it down, and not worry about it. Like, I think that's, and anybody that would talk in that way anyway isn't worth listening to. Because if somebody said that, if somebody came up to you on the street and said, you know what, you're an asshole, you're going to be like, okay, pal. And you would just keep walking. And you would keep walking. You'd be like,
Sounds like a
this
you
person's crazy. This person's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Let me get away from them because this person's got something wrong with them. Well, why, if you're going to do that to somebody on the street, why are you going to give somebody your time of day on social media? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So throw it away, put it away, turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love doing too is, sometimes, a lot of times, there's events going on every weekend that coincides with a pay-per-view or a PLE, right? And a lot of times I love to watch events as a fan first before I'll study it as a performer. And, sometimes you have boys in a locker room, or just recently Danny and I were at a wedding. And I tell the guys, whatever you're watching, keep it to yourself. I still want to be entertained as a fan.
I want my own experience.
Right. I want my own experience. I don't want it to be blown by me scrolling through social media and there's some fan spoiling everything because they had a rant on social media, and it kind of just ruins the experience for me. I think that's one of the things that sometimes ruins the essence of pro wrestling is everybody is so quick to jump on social media to throw their thoughts out. And it's like, what if this person didn't get a chance to watch the event first? You're like spoiling it for them. I go back to us pre-social media where, if we weren't able to have enough money to order the pay-per-view, we were waiting for somebody to record it on their black box back in the day. And I know that's a term for a lot of the younger generation. For me, that was a thing for me. I had a friend that had a black box, so I couldn't get the pay-per-views because they were very expensive. I didn't come from a rich household, so
you never had legal cable.
Yeah, that's very true too. Yeah,
you got a wire.
Yeah, hopefully the IRS is not coming after me for that one. But that was me. Like, I would wait for him to give me that VHS tape, and I wouldn't even, if it was 2 weeks later, I wouldn't watch Saturday Night. I wouldn't watch Superstars. I would wait.
It's episodic.
Yeah, it's episodic.
You can't.
And I feel like today, a lot of the times it gets ruined for anybody that wants to watch it. To me, I think that's a negative of social media too.
Yeah, that's another reason why you got to stay off of it.
Yeah,
the one thing that drives me crazy that really I will never understand, but it's big and the fans love it, is the spoilers. When we just spotted so and so or somebody like I will never understand that because I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I know people love Star Wars. If there's a new Star Wars movie and people put out like what happened at the end, they would kill that person. Like no spoil. So
have some decency.
When it comes to movies and TV, so why do you want to know what's going to happen before it happens in wrestling? Like nobody wants if it's the same thing with like football or baseball. Like you're watching it because you don't know who's going to win this game. If I know who's going to win or if I know the surprise before it happens, why would I want to watch? Like I'll never understand why people like to spoil it before it happens.
Dave, we still get together.
That.
We still get together as a group. We get pizza, wings, a bunch of beer, and we sit here on a big screen and we watch the PLE.
Because at the end of the day, we're all still fans. That's why we do it is because we're fans of the industry. We're fans because of what we grew up on. And
I love wrestling.
We come from that era of we didn't have social media. So, if we didn't order the pay-per-view, we had to wait a week to watch TV to find out what happened. Yeah. So, we love to still have that inner child in ourselves of being able to sit around as brothers and be able to watch it as a fan. Which to me it still brings me back to that childhood mentality. We always talk about being an adult in real life and you have real world responsibilities. Sometimes having that essence of just being able to sit down and watch those shows brings you back to that childhood of you couldn't wait to get in front of that pay-per-view. You would see that disclaimer pop up on the screen of piracy and things of that nature, and we would just sit there as a fan or, that whole essence of...
Or the Red X.
Yeah, the Red X, or going to Blockbuster and just renting, for me, it was renting WrestleMania 6 and just burning the hell out of that VHS tape because I couldn't get enough of Hogan Warrior, at that time. to me today, it's kind of that same thing. I want to sit down and I want to be able to watch it as a fan and just embrace it because of my love of the industry. And then I'll go back and watch it and I'll study it as a performer
analytically and say,
yeah.
okay, right. Yeah,
It's such a very interesting time that we're in, that everybody feels like today they have to be a what I like to call the podcast journalists, the armchair quarterback fans, which actually is a kind of a question I have for you. Because of what you've done with Busted Open, you have opened the doors for so many people who have started their own wrestling podcasts and things of that nature. And I say this with all due respect, right? There's a lot of people trying to do what you do, but there's only one Dave LaGreca. You are the godfather of what you do. What do you see from that these days? Do you see that it's more of a positive of individuals trying to emulate what you do, or do you see it more as a negative of people that are fans that try to act like they are in the industry and they are in the know? Do you feel like what you have done as a host with your show, that it's spun off positively more than negatively, or do you feel it's the opposite?
I think it's been more. I think it's definitely been more positive. I used to teach broadcasting years ago, and I remember when I would do open houses for the school, I would talk to the class or the potential class about broadcasting and about radio, and everybody kind of wanted at that time to be the next Howard Stern. Like everybody wanted to be, and I always would say. I would say,
Shock
like,
radio.
if you're starting a show, what would you want your show to be?
like
And they
Howard.
would describe Howard Stern show. I go, that there's already Howard Stern. Nope, there is already a Howard Stern. So like what I always try to look at, and when people ask for my advice, which by the way, guys, I love the community and the industry. Like you could get inspiration from different shows, but you got to put your own personal spin on it. It's kind of like being a wrestler. Like you guys talked about the it factor. You can't explain that it factor. It has to be,
But you know it
you
when you
can't
see
teach
it.
that. It
You
has
know
to
it when
be
you see
something
it.
within, something like natural that you can bring out from yourself. It's the same thing here. Yes. Yeah.
Authentic, organic.
Yeah, it has to be organic. It can't be forced. It can't be fake. Like you're not going to know that until you start to do it. I don't like the inside industry stuff unless you're actually on the inside. I don't appreciate that. Why would I listen to you? How do I know what you're saying is true? Be reactionary. Watch the show, watch it as a fan, and then react to it as you would as you're talking to your friends about wrestling. That's where it should start from.
Yeah.
And then you could build it from there. But don't try to be like Dave LaGreca or Dave Meltzer. Be your own person and put your own personal spin on it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate
I
too
think-
how you see that legitimacy. Sorry, but the legitimacy in the wrestling too that I love, like how you mentioned that you take offense, right, to people saying that wrestling is fake or that wrestling isn't real, or taking it as anything less than a sport. Because we are putting our bodies on the line.
Yeah,
we are
of course.
risking time away from our family, from our loved ones. We're missing, and you hear it all the time. But if you really stop and think about it, think about the weddings, think about the seriously the births, think about the parties, think about the times that we missed and we sacrificed. We said absolutely not. I can't do it. I can't be there for you, Mom. I can't be there for you. Because wrestling is so real to me. And I have to go put this performance on in front of this group of people.
Yep. And even take it a step further, right? One of the things that I think a lot of fans don't understand too is, and I use this from my own personal perspective in the relationship that I'm in, the first thing that I will do when I walk through a curtain is grab my phone and I will text my girlfriend. I will say, hey, I just had my match. I'm safe. I think a lot of times fans put that aside and don't realize just how dangerous it is of what we do. And I think that kind of plays into your point of so many individuals trying to play off that they know what goes on in the industry and they understand what we do. And in reality, they don't really understand, because there are fears that we have when we go into matches, right? Because what we do is so intricate. All it takes is one tiny little thing, and someone can be seriously injured, right? We look at just a simple routine move that was a complete mistake, and what happened with guys like Big E, right?
Yep.
That happens with us on the independent level too. There are those of us that, we're going into matches, putting our bodies on the line. We want to make sure that we come home unscathed. Yeah, we're going to have some bumps and bruises, but the last thing any of us want to do is have to be able to tell our families that we're in the hospital or something of that nature
anymore. We lost feeling in our arm.
Right. And of course, we put a lot of mileage on our bodies. And again, I think that's one of the things that is a testament to you, that you bring to the table in that passion, is you try to help people understand that, yes, what we do is entertainment, but it's extremely real. And that's where that comes into play. Of that nature, is that a lot of fans don't realize that whether you're a performer on TV or you're someone grinding on the independents, you may have somebody you're going home to, whether it's a wife, a girlfriend, a child, or multiple children, mothers, fathers, uncles. You go home to those, and you want to make sure you go home unscathed. And a lot of times I feel like that gets thrown by the wayside with fans of oh, well, that guy took a stupid bump, or, that looked fake, or, I think a lot of times fans get lost up in the nature of wanting to be such an insider that they lose track of
the moment.
The moment of what we do is very legitimate. And I talk about this even from a coaching perspective, right? I've always said to our students at school that I train at is, if what we do is so easy, there'd be a line a mile long outside the building to sign up and do what we do. But in reality, it's a very small percentage of those that will take the initiative to invest the money into a legitimate school to want to learn how to do this. What do you see as that perspective when you hear a lot of and see a lot of the comments and the things that you see on social media, or the feedback about what you do from your level of the respect that you have for what professional wrestlers do?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate respect, because I do agree. Like, you guys put your bodies on the line each and every time you step into the ring, and that's got to be the first thing that people are thinking about. And they got to understand that. That's why another word I don't use is like the word botch. When people say botch, like, first of all, you don't know what's happening in that situation, and you don't know what. And you know what? When there's an act, like, to me, it's all about the spirit of the fight. So, like, not everything is going to come out perfect or look perfect. Not
the
supposed
spirit of the
to.
Fight, yes.
I love that.
It's supposed to be two people having a match, trying to win that match. So when you're doing that, there's going to be things that look different. But, like, I think that's very disrespectful when somebody says, oh, that looked a certain way, or that was a mistake, or that was a bot. It's not supposed to be perfect, but the first thing on everyone's mind, like you said, is that you're putting your body on the line every time you step into that ring. And what's most important is that when that match is over, that everyone's safe and everyone's healthy. First and foremost, before anything else.
Well, Dave, when we first started playing around with the idea of having a podcast, I was probably the odd bird of the bunch. And I was like, man, nobody wants to hear what we have to say. Who are we? What have we done? And the two of you sold me on the fact that, hey, we can't tell anyone how to main event WrestleMania, how to have the greatest table match of all time, how to captivate the wrestling world, how to go on and make movies and make millions off a brand. But we can explain how to survive on the independents, how to find that balance of living a regular life, going to work every single day, and being that weekend warrior, making the towns, and being sore because you work Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. You're flying in Sunday morning. to have a quick breakfast with your family, soak your wounds, and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning because you gotta make your toolbox meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning at work in your uniform.
But to teach you to that point, right? To teach you how to get to that opportunity that could lead you to that big time.
Yeah.
But like I was gonna say, it's where I can speak gospel is. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and listen, you know, I can tell you how to survive on the independents, how to find balance, and how to hopefully prepare you to get to evolve, to get to that next level, to where you can, you know, fall into a performance center or an NXT or a contract of some sort, and, you know, proceed in your journey of becoming a millionaire or box office attraction or the next superstar.
It's all about knowledge. It's about knowledge and spreading that knowledge. And I think with the show like yours is that you're giving knowledge, you're almost giving an instruction manual, but you're also telling stories and doing it in an entertaining way, but it's also teaching. And I think there's a story to be told about being a wrestler on the independent scene. And I feel like now more than ever, fans respect the independent wrestling scene. And there is a whole way to be successful on the independent wrestling scene. And I think you guys are an example of that. Like, there are fans that pay to see you. You know, there are fans that enjoy your work. Like that voice and that story needs to be told. It's part of this pro wrestling community. It's not all about being in the main event at WrestleMania. I think there's just as good of a story to be told about how to be a success on the independent level.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely expanded from just being like. I think it's expanded so much in terms of perspective, and I think that's what's allowing people to really kind of hook on more and kind of understand. Like, listen, like this is an art form. You know, this is an art form that we're presenting, and this is something that we're giving you a show, and people need to really just. I feel like we're starting to get to that point where people can kind of accept a little bit more, but you don't have to pull back the curtain also so much in a way, right, where you have to throw them into the world, where you have to bring them in. I think it's just presenting the show, letting them see it, letting them enjoy it, letting them watch it.
Yeah, boundaries.
And establishing fair boundaries. Fair and legitimate boundaries.
Yep.
Yeah, I think when it comes to a fan perspective, right, they watch so much national television program, right? And not that every fan is going to go and do the research and say, hey, where did this person come from, right? We see that WWE has an NIL program that was so prevalent for so many years, and now we see what they're doing with Evolve, where they're really going back to that grassroots perspective. I think it really kind of shines a light on where a lot of the top performers that you see on TV every week came from, right?
Yep.
You know, CM Punk wasn't, plucked from an NIL program. You know, he grinded through the independents. The same thing with an AJ Styles and so many guys. And I think, like you said, to your point, as the wrestling industry evolves and we start to see some of the backgrounds of some of these talents from Evolve, I think it starts to shed a light on the independents and to see that a lot of these guys and girls did not come from a sporting background. They came from what we do. They came from joining a wrestling school. They came from, in their first couple of years, wrestling in front of 10, 15, 20 people, where out of the 20 people, maybe 10 of them were their family members coming to support them. And they grinded and they kept going through the highs and the lows. And I think what Danny and I and Darius are trying to do is trying to shed a light on some of that, of what happens when you really put your eggs into that basket and what you're really trying to do to get to that level, and what those roadblocks are that a lot of the three of us have encountered throughout our careers, trying to open that door to a bigger platform. And what happens, what do you do next when you try to open that door a little bit and it gets slammed in your face? What do you do next? Do you keep it closed or do you try to find another avenue? And that's what a lot of those guys who've been able to break through into WWE and AEW have done. They didn't take no for an answer. And it's very in the way of what you're doing with Busted Open, right? You didn't take no for an answer. Like you said earlier on, like, it wasn't always the case where everybody was so supportive.
Exactly.
But to the same degree, right?
They become supportive over time, but they does not start that way.
Right, yeah, no, you have that same perspective of, and I can speak for the three of us, right? It's when we achieve a certain level, okay, we'll bask in that for a moment, but then what's next?
The next point.
Where do we go next? And I think you've been an exemplary individual in that with your show of, you kept going. You believed in what you were doing. You had confidence, and you said, okay, when I achieve this, I bask in the moment for a second, but then it's what's next. It's no different from a national TV program of, hey, we achieved this record at WrestleMania. Now we go to what's next. What is it within you as a fan with Busted Open that keeps you going after all of these years?
Proving the zombies wrong.
It's a love of
Right.
Proving the zombies wrong. Tell them, Dave.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
Get it to him. Get it to him.
You know what it is? Honestly, it's just a love of what I do.
Yeah, it's passion.
Like, you just said it before, Shawn, where it's like when you see that, the red X, or you see like that FBI warning or whatever it is, like right before a pay-per-view, and you get kind of that surge of excitement.
The butterflies.
Yeah, that's exactly
I still get that when I watch. I still
the disclaimer.
I'll watch a show and then I'll be like, man, I can't wait to get on the air the next day to talk about it.
Yeah.
Or when I go to a show, I'm excited. I look forward to that day. And I'm excited when I'm going there. I still have that excitement. That keeps me going. Plus now it is my livelihood. It's the way I pay my bills. It's how I feed my family. So the success of this show makes that job a lot easier for me. So that motivates me. But it all comes back down to the passion and love that I have for professional wrestling. That's what keeps me going. Because if I didn't have that love and passion for it, I would have quit years ago. But it's that passion and love that, just like you guys, it's the passion and the love that keeps you doing what you do.
And I know we have to kind of wrap up soon because I'm sure Dave is giving us the.
I got the wife waiting outside.
Yeah, I got the Pat Patterson. I got the pencil, tapping on my forehead. But kind of putting a bow on this too, and we talk about. Where your love of wrestling has come from and our love of wrestling comes from. You've been to a lot of independent shows, and what do you think are, from a fan perspective, in your opinion, where you see the independents today and where you think it can go? Because we always talk about, and what I've equated, and I think I've spoken to Danny and Darius about this, right? When I see people walk through the doors of a wrestling school or doing independent wrestling, right? I've equated it to two things, right? You have that individual that will go to any length to make it, but then you have that individual that it's cool to try and do. And those that think it's cool and try to do will never put their full weight into it. Are you able to see that when you go to independent shows? And what do you think are some of the pros and the opportunities that still exist in the world of independent wrestling in 2025?
I think as a fan, you can see that. You can see the people who are really dedicated and want to do this 100%, and the people that are just doing it for a hobby or just doing it to say that they're doing it, or they can say, well, I'm in the business, I'm a professional wrestler. But Shawn, I do think it starts with the wrestling schools. I think every wrestling school has an obligation to weed those people out.
Yes.
Thank
Like,
you.
yes.
Please.
Filter system.
Yes,
we need
please.
a filtration system.
I know Maff
Maff
will agree with that. Please
Filtration
exhaust that to
systems.
another level. It's yes.
Look, he's jumping at the bit. Look at him. Look at him. You can see the beads of sweat.
Yep, he's
flying off
got
of his
the
head.
beat sweats going on, so I love it.
It's real legitimacy.
Yes.
Legitimacy in the craft.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's return to that. Let's keep that going because that respect. Listen, I came up on Nick Bockwinkel. Right, like that was my type of thing.
That's
you know,
awesome.
The Nature Boy, Ric Flair. You know, and the territories and those days and the passion and knowing, you know, this star in this territory and letting the sport be the sport. You know, and just involving yourself in that and letting that. And I think people you. This is the story we keep coming back to: is people wanting to over-involve themselves and wanting to step in. And I can't. And as I listen to you speak, Dave, I just have to tell you that again, that way that you respect wrestling, and the way that you also grasp it and you understand it, and you can then explain it to people in a informative way. You know, it's very easy for one of those strings to get loose and something to go wrong, and you really keep it together because people really misunderstand what we do.
And now, and it comes back to what Danny said early on in the interview. It's passion. I think that's the word that I think it has to. And no matter what you're doing, you have to have a passion for it. Because if you don't, you're not going to be successful. And you can't surround yourself with people that aren't passionate. And there are people that you got to cut off, and that's difficult to do. But that's like I said with wrestling schools. You have to weed out those people because those people are only going to hurt the sport and possibly hurt somebody in the ring.
Yeah, that's right. That's another thing.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. This has been amazing.
Thank you guys. This has been awesome.
It's been a pleasure to meet you, Dave.
Dave, I would like to thank you because I know you're probably exhausted, probably hungry. You had your regular, you recorded this morning with Nick and with Natty, and you have a long drive home, and you probably have the lovely Violetta waiting right outside your door, waiting with some pierogies.
With a honeydew list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, listen, I pray and I hope, and I'm pulling for Busted Open 24/7. I hope it becomes reality. Wrestling needs Busted Open 24/7. The wrestling community needs Busted Open 24/7. The Busted Open community, the wrestling nation needs Dave LaGreca.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you, Dave. Yeah. And we love you. And we have nothing but respect for you. Yes. You are the godfather of Sirius. You are.
It's been a pleasure.
Flowers where they're due, man.
Yes.
And I am not ashamed to say it. I will give you a hug wherever I see you. Yep. And I will pay you your respects.
Yes.
And I will pay you your respects because you took your time out of your busy day to do what you did here. To really help three guys out and to make our day. Yeah. And I only have one request.
What's that?
That you please do not give up hope. Please. If it's the last thing you ever do, is have Tommy do the pow, 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 pow. And tell Thunder Moff needs that, man.
I'm trying, but seriously, guys, thank you for having me. It's been an honor, and this was a long time coming. I apologize I couldn't be there in studio with you because I really wanted to be.
Hey, it's great. It's great to.
We'll definitely do that at some point. And the next time I see you guys, you're definitely getting a big hug because I appreciate and love what you do. And thank you so much. I'm honored to be on the show and appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
And we appreciate you, and we thank you for everything you do for pro wrestling because guys like us who are still grinding on the independents, we love having that voice on the other side that can be the voice of reason and show people that what we do is an art form and it's not just BS. So thank
Shawn,
you very
keep
much.
Posting pictures with the cats because my wife loves that stuff.
I know she does because I'm connected with her, so I know she loves cats. So
thank you, Dave. We appreciate you.
It's great to meet you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dave.
It's been a pleasure.
This is for you, Dave. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
love
you.
you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.